Hey, where are we? We like to do these shows where we go. I find a product I love, and we go to where it comes from. We went to the Beaujolais harvest a couple of years ago, olive oil harvest, same year, I think. San Marzano tomatoes. What is a San Marzano tomato? We hear this word thrown around all the time. It's the most prized tomato out there. Everyone agrees it's a great tomato, so I figured the only way to find out what it really was is to go to this part of Italy during the harvest. That's where I am. Stay where you are. We're going to be right back.
Rosso San Marzano.
We're in the village of Sarno, which is sitting, 10 minutes from Mount Vesuvius, which is an active volcano. That volcanic soil and the activity of it has made this soil around here incredibly mineral rich. The ground's worth a fortune. It's really like a labor of love. And one of the other things that makes these tomatoes so magical is if you look at this soil, how dry it is. It hasn't rained here in 90 days. It's incredible. If you look up on that mountainside, there's a fire. Been lots of fires down here in this region all summer long. It's the summer of 2007. It's been really hot and really, really dry. Right beneath this soil, just a couple of feet, there's water. Natural water. That's where the water comes from. The water table's that high. That's the other thing that makes this place magical. So what we have is a DOP tomato. The Italians have recognized this region, San Marzano. So there's really two things. The San Marzano region produces San Marzano style tomatoes. Then the DOPs are the ones that are that style of the correct species, grown here, hand-picked and canned a certain way. So it's really sort of the ultimate lifting it up level-wise. We're going to see tomatoes canned. We're going to see what makes them so special. And let me just walk in here and show you some nice tomatoes. Watch your step. Yeah, here's just a beautiful cluster. If I can pull this one up. These are towards the bottom. They look just like the pictures on the cans. They've got that beautiful elongated shape. Here again is another, pick one off. Beautiful example. This is a ripe tomato. And you know what I'm going to do? Let's just take a bite. Perfect. Almost sweet. Tiny bit of acid, but really almost no acid component, and an enormous amount of flesh. If you look at this, I know we don't almost look at a bit tomato, but it's almost all flesh. The seed part's very minimal. So skin, lots and lots of thick flesh the whole way through, a little bit of seed in the middle, an incredible tomato. So this is one of the things that makes the San Marzano tomatoes amazing. One of many. The soil, the climate, how they're harvested. You're going to see these are all hand-picked. To be DOP, they're hand-picked. An astounding product. You'll see them canned. By the time you're done, you're going to know more about these than most Italians. Trust me. People have to recognize a little bit that fruit, vegetables, very much like growing grapes, olives, very much like wine. If you think of it that way, then you can think of terroir, which is what we're talking about here, about seasonality. Some seasons are better than others, some years are better than others, and about how all of this, the sun, the soil, how the plant is treated really affects the finished product. Hey, you thought we were just talking about tomatoes, huh? We talked about how high the water table is here. You could shoot in there. This is right where the soil level is. And this is cold, potable, spring water, 2 feet below the soils.
That's his wine. He made it.
All right, I've been adopted here by Angelo down the street from the tomato farm, and he invited me. And this is a little tiny vineyard that he keeps behind his house. We're right next to that little natural spring. Salted tomato with some olive oil. I'm not sure anybody in New York is going to get this, but it's just amazingly delicious. This is stale bread dipped in spring water with kind of a half-ripe tomato, drizzled with olive oil, a little bit of sea salt, amazing olive oil,
No, che esiste.
and it's like magic. This is kind of why you come here, because you eat stuff like this in someone's backyard. I mean, I don't think they're serving this in restaurants, and it's stunningly good.
Cin cin.
The good life in Sarno. Welcome to day 2. We actually got a good night's sleep last night, so this is this is a good thing. We're at the tomato factory of Solagna here in Sarno, where they're processing San Marzanos. Yesterday we saw the fields. Today we're actually seeing the tomatoes processed. So, I mean, this is really tomato packing 101. You saw the fields, you saw the tomatoes. They got accepted where we were at the other plant. They get shipped here, and now we're going to really see how a tomato gets canned. These are beautiful San Marzano tomatoes. Follow them into this factory. You'll see. All right, this is the initial washing process. The tomatoes are coming out as we saw them out of those crates. This is where they get separated, initially from any stems, any non-tomato material, and this is the initial wash, the first of 2. Forgive me for sweating, but we're in a factory. It's Naples, it's August, it's about 120 degrees where I am. But this is the way you want to do these shows. On that conveyor belt, that's how you make peeled tomatoes. They go through a steam bath, a hot steam bath. That cooks them briefly up those little conveyors where those little fingers take the skin off. Once they get to the top of that, they make that little turn around that elbow, come up to these conveyor belts where on each of these lines we have 6 women. This is the final QC. Any tomatoes that are broken, smashed, slightly green, have spots that missed the first exam, that missed the camera optical exam, this is where they get thrown out. They only want perfect tomatoes here. So that's what these women are doing, is sorting the final check here, so that the San Marzanos that end up in the can, that are these tomatoes that are the DOP, are absolutely flawless, whole, unblemished tomatoes. And you've got 4 lines running, full production, 6 women per side. This is the last we're gonna see those tomatoes, basically prior to them going in the cans. If you notice the interiors of these cans, these are what they call 28-ounce or half-kilo cans. They've got a white glaze on them. That's really important because that protects the tomatoes from contacting with the tin plate. So there's no de-tinning. If you ever had canned tomatoes and you put your finger and you taste them and they taste metallic, because tomatoes have acidity and they react to the tin plate in the cans, this white glaze is very, very new, and it keeps that process from happening. So the tomatoes are sweet in the field, sweet when they're cooked, sweet in the can, and sweet when you buy them. All right, we're outside now, and I've almost stopped sweating. It was like Dante's Inferno in there, man. This machine behind me is a retort. This is how we're able to do modern food. This gets the tomatoes 1 hour at 95 degrees internal temperature, so they're cooked inside the can. Everything you eat that's canned comes through one of these. I can't connect the dots any better. You got the picture. We saw the tomatoes growing. We saw the soil. We saw them picked, how they get to the factory. From the factory, everything including, you ever wonder how that little basil leaf gets put in your tomatoes? Now you know. A couple of ladies put them in there. It's amazing. Well, those tomatoes come here, get canned through the retort, sit 2 weeks. Once they're out of incubation, they're labeled, packed, put on pallets. Pallets come here, shrunk wrapped onto a container. I'm sitting behind. This is a 20-foot container. This container will be full. It'll take 21 pallets, which contain 100 cases each. And this is how they get to America. This container gets sealed, gets on the back of a boat in the harbor of Naples. Boom. 2.5 weeks later, it's in Port Newark, wherever it goes. That's how San Marzano tomatoes get to America. It's a great story, and hope you enjoyed it as much as I did making it. Welcome back from Naples. Was that fun or what? Yeah, I have to tell you, one of the pleasures of doing this show is to be able, well, let me put it this way, to effectively communicate food as narrative, as story. You really have to go to the source. You know, if you're talking about Armagnac, as we did 6 years ago, go to the south of France when they have the alembics fired up and they're turning that odd wine into that amazing distilled liquor. If you want to talk about wines like Beaujolais, go during the harvest, but you've got to be there during those windows. We filmed the olive oil harvest a couple seasons ago. So these San Marzano tomatoes, to me, to chefs, they're always the gold standard. I mean, they're every great kitchen, if they're using a canned tomato as opposed to a fresh, they're using San Marzanos. The best pizzeria in Manhattan, Una Pizzeria Napoletana, down in the East Village. The guy's a nut. He's like, you know, he's the pizza crazy guy. You know, he has Italian flour, Sicilian sea salt. You know, the guy that always runs out. What's he use? San Marzano DOP tomatoes. When I was a kid, that's what I ate growing up. I mean, I remember, I don't know why, my grandmother, when tomatoes were out of season and she wasn't using fresh tomatoes, that's what she used, was canned San Marzanos and imported Italian pasta. So I just remember that flavor. Now you fast forward, you know, 40 plus years, and when I was a chef, that's what I bought for my kitchens. I see them in a lot of the great New York kitchens, so I wanted to get the story. What is it about San Marzano tomatoes? And of course, not surprisingly, it's just like everything else. It's about terroir, it's about place. Where San Marzanos grow, that epicenter, that town of Sarno, sits right between Vesuvius and the Bay of Naples, which is where that volcano ran off. This is volcanic soil, and volcanic soil has a real unique quality to it. The wines they make there have a flavor from it. That water table that was so high, you remember when we were filming there out in the field, and you could see the water was just, 2-3 feet below the ground, and clean, clear water. That's what makes these tomatoes so special. And I think for me, the wow moment was the first day we shot. We flew into Rome, got picked up at the airport, drove down to Naples. We're exhausted. I don't sleep on these flights. And we get down there, and I said, it's a beautiful day. I said, let's film. We're going to film. We'll shower up, have an espresso, and go out in the field because it was gorgeous. Head out to the field, and I'm in that field, and I'm pulling a tomato off the vine, and I just remember taking a bite out of this tomato. And I bit it, and it was that long shape, that kind of cone. And when I bit it, I looked at it, and it was all flesh. Skin was thin as could be. That seedy, watery center was almost non-existent. It was like that. And I just went, that's what makes these tomatoes. Of course, the flavor. And the flavor is a function of microclimate, again, and terroir and environment. That microclimate and then that breed of tomato are just astonishing. The best cooking tomatoes there are. And then add to that for the DOP, for the tomato that gets that stamp. It's not just the San Marzano region, it's the best of the San Marzano region. It's the one without the blemishes. It's the ones that aren't green because you pick tomatoes that are slightly less ripe and tomatoes that have, though they don't make it to be the DOP. So the DOP are the creme de la creme. It's the Rolls Royce of tomatoes. And I had to see it with my own eyes. That's kind of what I'm saying in a long-winded way. Was we really had to go there, and we had to go in August this year when they were harvesting to see it. And I got it. Wow, great tomato, incredible microclimate, right by Naples. So what are we going to cook? We saw a lot of seafood. Naples is a bay, big port town. Saw a lot of seafood. We ate a lot of seafood there. I was at Shorty's 32, great restaurant downtown New York City. Josh Eden's the chef. He did a skate in a tomato sauce with bacon and onions, braised. And I thought, wow, this is not how I cook skate at all. I always saute mine the same way. So we're going to braise a beautiful piece of skate in these San Marzano tomatoes. Skip the bacon, a little bit of capers, a little bit of fresh oregano. I've got a halibut cheek. We're going to serve that with it too. Some escarole, some really nice pasta. Really simple Italian style, that sort of Neapolitan style seafood dish, utilizing the San Marzano tomato, really the gold standard for the tomato world. And I'm going to show you how easy it is, real effective, 15, 20-minute meal. And even though those tomatoes cost a little bit extra, they're worth every penny. The dish is going to be great. Stay with us, and you'll see how we do it. And these are these beautiful, pull one out of here. It's nice to be at the factory and see these, and you can see that's just, that's as gorgeous a canned tomato as you're going to see. I'm just like popping it in my mouth. Perfect. All right, let me get a pan hot. And all I'm doing with these tomatoes is just, you can also eat them out of the can like this. And there's kind of a misconception, I think, with canned tomatoes about cooking them, that you have to cook tomato sauces a long time. You don't. Canned tomato is a cooked tomato. There's no real reason to cook it any great length of time. And if you want with this tomato sauce, you could add a little onion, you could add a little hot pepper. I just want to keep this really, really simple. I'll meet you at the stove in a second here. All right, got a pan. Let's see how hot she is. I don't want it too hot. I don't want that garlic to burn. Just a little olive oil. I think it's warm a little bit, maybe a couple tablespoons of garlic. And yeah, you can see now. Take a shot of that, sir. You could hear that and see that cooking. And all we're doing here is just letting this garlic turn really, this is real typical, just light golden brown, and that's it. Because it's chopped so fine, a lot of that garlic flavor just spreads out into the oil, so it's no need to cook it past just the lightest golden brown, otherwise garlic tends to get a little bitter. I'm not going to use this whole can. Look at these tomatoes, aren't they beautiful? That's just the... little bit of that great tomato juice, because that comes right out of the same San Marzano tomatoes. Now we're just going to break them up a little bit. Pinch of salt. A couple of capers. I don't need all the vinegar. Just a few capers in the sauce, because I love capers in seafood. And I love capers in tomato sauce. We're just going to let this simmer. There's no reason to cook this too hard. This is going to cook for maybe 15, 20 minutes maximum. It's just simmering. I'm going to do the escarole. I'm going to drop the pasta in a couple of minutes, and then once I start with the fish, this is going to go over the top. But this does not have to cook long. I'm going to pull a little bit of this, just a little bit. I don't want to put too much. This is nice fresh oregano. I'm also going to put a little bit of this in the tomato sauce. And of course, we'll finish the whole thing with chopped parsley the way we always do. I'm going to chop this garlic up. This is for the escarole. Just make sure when you're buying escarole that you buy nice, tight, crunchy heads. I mean, it's a rough green, so you don't have to worry about it too much. I like to wash it. Make sure I get any sand. Sometimes it tends to be sandy. It's a leafy green that grows like lettuce close to the ground. And then make sure you spin it dry or drain it really well. I actually turn this in a towel a few times. And we're going to do this just the last thing before the fish. So I guess at this point it's time to start sauteing fish. I'll meet you on this side. All right. This is just a little bit of that fresh oregano. Tomato sauce, you can see it's got that beautiful color. Capers, garlic, San Marzano tomatoes. That's it. Now I'm going to get this pan hot, and with the skate, we're just going to a little salt, a little olive oil. We're going to put the skate in the pan. This is the side I want to serve up eventually, so just by habit, I'm putting this in the pan first. Couple of turns from a pepper mill, and leave it alone for a minute. While that's happening, I've got this pot of boiling water out back here. See that salted water, always for pasta, we like salted water. I'm going to put a little bit of this, again, this is just a nice Italian, this is an organic pasta. And you can see the water react. Whoops, that was a good shot. You get that on the camera? And when you first put the pasta in, give it a stir, because that's the only time I worry about the starches. All right, escarole, really simple as can be. Again, olive oil and garlic. Sound redundant? Well, kind of building blocks of Italian cuisine. You can see the garlic's beginning to get golden brown. In goes my escarole. Not too much. We're just going to let that wilt. And all I want this to do is just wilt. You don't have to cook this far. In fact, I like it if it has a little bit of crunch to it. Just like that. It's going to carry over. I'm just going to leave it in the pan. Set the pan off to the side. Get ready to cook my halibut cheek. For the halibut cheek, I'm just going to use a little mixture of olive oil. Then I'm going to finish it with a little butter at the end because I want, yeah, that's hot. A little salt. And in. This doesn't take long to cook. All right. Looks like a big scallop, doesn't it? I can't resist. We're going to add a little bit of butter to this pan just to let that fish finish. Just baste the fish a little bit in butter. Butter and olive oil, you can't go wrong. All right, done. I always like to finish these dishes with just a little bit of rough chopped flat leaf parsley because it just tastes so good. There's that skate and tomato sauce. Just baked in that beautiful San Marzano sauce. And we're just gonna toss that pasta so it picks up that sauce. 1 second, Joe, stay where you are. I don't have a big serving spoon here, so I'm gonna have to do it like this. And we're just gonna put a little pasta on the side. I'm not using cheese in here because I don't think it's too appropriate, but if you like cheese, I suppose you could. I've got the capers going, the pasta going. I know, this is grandmom style, but the escarole, nice and dry, rounds out the plate. And this cod cheek, halibut cheek, I mean. Just gonna set this right on top. A little bit of chopped parsley on everything. This is why I always should hire a food stylist, because I am so bad at plating food, but I don't really care. I mean, if you've been watching the show for any of the last 7 years, you know that this isn't my forte, but if it tastes good, that's what matters to me. So this is gonna taste great. Let's just take apart. I've got this skate down here. I'll take a piece. This is beautiful. This is one of my favorite fish. This is really, was for years considered a junk fish. It's so delicious. Again, I got this idea, truth, from Josh Eden's at Shorty's 32, his little restaurant, 32-seat restaurant downtown. I'm gonna do this a lot now with skate, braised in tomato sauce. Just take a little piece of this, just to contrast it. Total different texture, little butter, this great piece of halibut cheek. Oh. The oregano's in there, it's beautiful. You could go with pasta, you could go with bread. And a little escarole, because my doctor told me to. I know it looks like a mess, but it's delicious. So, real simple Italian food, seafood, pasta, great San Marzano tomatoes, capers, little oregano, some garlic. How simple is that? This whole meal didn't take 20 minutes. I mean, really, we were waiting for the pasta at the end. So pasta took, what, 12, 14 minutes to cook? The real cooking time of this was that time. You make the tomato sauce a couple of minutes ahead, day ahead, whatever. Make it in batches and freeze it. You don't even have to, do much to it. But being there, being in San Marzano, seeing those fields, tasting. We had that wonderful wine while we were there that say the same thing, that volcanic soil. There's a wine from that region that's an ancient wine called Greco di Tufa. Greco, because of the Greek time in there, in that part of the world. And that Greco di Tufa, one of the characteristics of it is this almost sulfuric, volcanic, just wonderful style. And all this stuff works together. And it's really about terroir, it's about region, it's about microclimates. And in the case of San Marzano tomatoes, it really is a magical varietal of a tomato grown in the perfect place for it to grow. It doesn't get much better. Hey, thanks for watching. Naples was a blast. Can't wait to go back. This time, hopefully I won't be working so hard. Stay tuned for the next one, and eat well at every occasion. See you next time.